Move to the motions, and we're going to begin with motion A, and I'm going to invite Sarah Dargie from Renfrew to present that motion. I think this may be Sarah's first time speaking at Congress, so...
How did you guess?
Thanks.
Sarah Dargie, delegate number 98. Good morning, fellow SSTA members. I've only been an acting rep in my school since 2015 due to a staff absence, but even within such a short space of time, my opinions of the monopoly SQA holds in Scotland have caused me to present this motion. Every day I'm privileged to teach the future workforce in Scotland, and so I feel it's my duty to instil basic expectations within my classroom. One fundamental aspect of this is fairness. Fairness of treatment, fairness of opportunity, and fairness of assessment. I have the power to instil all these aspects of fairness to my pupils, but what about me as a teacher? Surely I have the right for fairness too. In a recent members' bulletin, SSTA stated that they have continually highlighted specific concerns in technical and computing assessments. As I'm sure you're aware, the SQA have announced that they are, quote, considering interim changes in current arrangements for 2016 and 17. But any move to centralised marking of these elements could only be implemented. Sorry, this keeps moving. My apologies. Sorry. Okay. Could only be implemented in 2017-18 if deemed appropriate. So what would deemed appropriate be then? Well, let's look at the three main ones that I'm looking at subject-wise. Design and manufacturing. At National 5, this assessment is worth 90 marks, which is 60% of the overall grade. Higher, this assignment is worth 70 marks, equating to 50% of the overall grade. But at Advanced Higher, the project is worth 120 marks out of a total of 200. Computing Science, National 5 and Higher. These assignments are worth 60 marks, for which 40% will be awarded the course. Advanced Higher, this project is worth 90 marks out of the total of 150, which equates to 60% of the overall grade. In Graphic Communication, National 5 and Higher, these assignments are worth an average of 65 marks, which is 50% of the overall course award. And Advanced Higher, this project is worth 120 marks. Some quotes I've received since doing an online survey from my current teachers. The SQA marked these when the subject was product design. Teachers are having to find time to mark these, and the SQA is getting it done on the cheap. We have to mark the assignments worth 50% of the overall grade, and I had to ask for a couple of days off timetable to manage this. It still wasn't sufficient. This used to be done by the SQA, who are now saving money. However, it cost our school money to pay for supply teachers. The marking of the assignments were done in my own time after school. Upon speaking to a faculty head who's actually responsible for these three areas, he said on average it takes, just for National 5, approximately a minute a mark. If you equate that to the Advanced Higher, that's 120 minutes that he has had to use up for each of his candidates. In May 2016, the test stated that, at present, aspects of the introduction of the new national qualifications have involved an unintended and unsustainable level of work for learners and teachers. Unfortunately, this is not anything new for teachers, not even government, as it's been aware of this since the rollout of the CFE qualifications. In fact, in June 2013, the Scottish Government, Mr Russell, who was the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Lifelong Learning, stated, "I have taken on board the recent union campaign to tackle teacher workload, and today I am happy to announce that I will deliver on that." The Scottish Government will look closely to the union and other key players as part of a group to identify key issues and come up with ways in which we can reduce the needless workload and bureaucracy. However, just this month, SQA has produced a review of the CFE qualifications and have stated that they will look into the possibility for external marking of assignments and reports in 2017 and beyond. This is fundamentally not fair for our fellow colleagues who are expected to mark far more weighted assignments for free in their own time. I urge Congress to support this motion and request an urgent review by SQA to introduce external marking for all curricular areas at all levels at national exams. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sarah, do you have a seconder? Do you have somebody second the motion?
Oh, yeah,
John
John Greedy.
John Greedy to second. Have you got a speech, John?
John Greedy, Delegate 65, Renfrew area. I use paper rather than a computer. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, but hopefully get the message across. As you're aware, internal assessments are divided into two sections: unit assessments, or UASPs, and course assessment tasks, the kind of assignment. If I talk about the unit assessments, first of all, also UASPs, or some people still call them NARS because the name keeps changing. They are bureaucratic in nature. For instance, in my subject, physics, it's all about circling the crosses on an assessment grid to attain various skills. This is time consuming. Circling crosses is not an easy task, and it takes a lot of skill to get it right. The requirement of a pupil to get 50% of a knowledge and understanding skill correct, and the pupil also has to get at least one problem solving skill correct in each of the 4 columns in the assessment grid. That's fine and dandy, but if a problem solving skill is not attained, then one must check the particular problem solving skill is attained in another unit assessment, assuming that the pupil has sat other unit assessments. It takes a bit of time explaining, but it takes a lot of time actually to do and try to get that pupil to fill up all the skills appropriately. Also, unit assessments are unreliable. This is because circling crosses means that the skills that the pupils have acquired, it shows what the pupils' skills have been acquired, but not what they have learned. And as a consequence, most departments in our school have to deliver another test, an A/B test, similar to the final exam. And this is to not only inform the pupils, but the parents how their child is progressing. The results of the A/B test are then translated in a language that parents can understand, a percentage score and a grade. Yes, a grade just like the final exam, nothing like the UASP, so parents know what's happening with their pupil. When it comes to the course assessment task, the assignment, or the AVU it's called, it's time consuming because all too often now we've got another little game to play, and the game is called Chase the Pupil. And that's chasing the pupil to complete the task. I'm sure there's many teachers here who have experienced that. Now, once you've caught the pupil, you have to then chase the deadline to get the coursework assessment task done. Thankfully, now, the sciences and many other subjects in the course assessment task is externally marked. But as for computing and technical subjects, the course assessment task is internally marked. In other words, they play chase the pupil and then give a grade once they caught the pupil. Very time consuming yet again, and bureaucratic. The SQA should thank all the computing and technical teachers for all their efforts of chasing, checking, marking for free or for nothing, gratis. Because that part of the work should be done by the SQA, the marking. It's no laughing matter, because I had one tearful computing teacher who explained to me on the unbelievable pressure placed on their small department to complete the coursework assessment task in time and to ensure that pupils also get a good grade.
To sum up, please, John.
Yeah. The SQA are not fair to those teachers having coursework assessment tasks eternally marked, and thankfully there will be a change. And external assessment for coursework assessment tasks for session 2018-2019. What does that mean? That means the computing and technical teachers will have to wait until the SQA make up their mind by 2018 and 2019, and that's not fair. Please support the motion.
Thank you, John. I now seek any contributions from the floor. If you wish to speak, there are chairs over here at the side. I think they're going to be moved along the front later on. But if you want to speak, please come along to the side right. Who's first? Trevor, I think. They're flipping a coin there to decide.
Trevor Jones, the delegate with the chocolate flake, number 99. Just this last week, in the last few days, Keir Bloomer was on radio and television, or at least on television news, complaining about the inequality of assessment. Some schools presenting as few as 5 national 5s, others presenting 8, and suggesting that it was a misinterpretation of the Curriculum for Excellence documents. Well, as one of the people behind the Curriculum for Excellence, perhaps he should look at it from the sense that the document was so inspecific that there was no wonder it was misinterpreted. Now, the other thing I can recollect is a few years ago we had Professor Lindsay Patterson from Edinburgh University as keynote speaker in the Congress at Peebles. And his comment was, get rid of it before the vested interests take over. Lastly, just recently, for the possibility of helping my great nephew, who is about to undertake national 5s, I looked up biology curriculum on the SQA website. It was about the size of a diary entry, and I could have written a course at any level based upon the very few words that were there. The document was absolutely rubbish. You've got that problem. I'm in a group of teachers who are stress-free. We're retired.
Thank you very much, Trevor. And
morning, Delegate. Stuart Allison, Delegate number 131. Now, we've just went through a verification last week, and this was the one I was handed in January for the understanding standards. This is the one that was issued in September that we didn't get, and we have now marked down children. Right? On the new one that we should have worked with, it says the level of complexity for the prototype must be taken into account. A very simple prototype, although skillfully and accurately marked out, will not allow a candidate to achieve marks above the bottom band. All shapes are classed as simple. Now, that is 4 times on that paper. That is a negative for the pupil 4 times. We spent all day marking it. We then had to get time off a head teacher to go back and remark this. Our pupils' marks have now halved. I spent a life in the army. I was a hard case. I went home that night and I regret. This is what the SQA is doing to teachers. And I support this motion very much. And it is my heart I am saying this with. And we got in touch with the SQA. Do you know what we get told? That's the marking scheme we've got. Then why the hell did you issue me the old one at understandings? And that's the one, that was the latest one we thought came out, and we marked it. Yes, it's my fault, it's our department's fault, but verifiers in the school tell us we should have been marked on the paperwork because that was still current within a year. Our school, everybody else, probably changes into June, into 4th year, and that's when we started this course on that paperwork. I want this motion totally and truly supported, please.
Thank you very much,
you.
Stuart. And Sid. I think Sid wants to speak, yeah?
Morning Congress, Sid Sanderson, delegate number 9. I'm not going to spend too long here at the lectern. I think that we'd all probably support the motion and agree with the sense of the motion. I particularly enjoyed John's chase the pupil. I had someone at 5 to 3 yesterday who was chasing me. Didn't catch me though. I had a meeting at 3:15. But what I would like to try and do is persuade Congress to support an amendment to the motion. And if you have your Congress SSTA pencils at hand, then if you were to put a little bracket between SQA and varies, done that? Mm-hmm. And then the next sentence, you put a wee bracket around the word it, then the motion would then read, deleting that part, internal assessment demanded by the SQA places onerous and unsustainable demands on teachers. I think regardless of which subject that we're doing, we're all agreed that the internal assessment of the SQA is just mental. So it's not the fact that the assessment is varied between the subjects the problem. It is in fact the burden of assessment for all the subjects.
Okay, thank you very much, Sid. So we've got a proposal for an amendment. Sid, do you have somebody to second that proposal? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can I ask Sarah, do you accept that amendment? Certainly, you have a right. You have a right to reply, I think. Yes.
Thank you. So as mentioned, I became a union rep, and I spoke to my members and asked if there was anything they wanted me to bring up, and in particular, the faculty head that's responsible for those 3 subjects said that they have to mark these assessments, which are then weighted to the final overall grade. I'm a biology teacher and I have the grace that I send my assessments off for SQA to mark. My only concern with amending this is that it then removes the fundamental thread that I wanted to bring to Congress, is that it's unfair that some subjects still have to mark assessed coursework, and it's therefore then graded internally, then subject occasionally to SQA scrutiny.
Thank you very much. Okay, so at this stage we need to vote on whether to accept the amendment. Are there any more contributions in the amendment before we move to that vote? Elaine?
Elaine Henderson, delegate number 4. I have the privilege of line managing the technical department at my school, and I appreciate my colleagues' references to all qualifications, but I feel Sarah's point is very strong. The technical and computing science are completely overwhelmed at this moment. They're covering classes left, right and centre to try and help out with the marking, and I feel we really have to highlight the variation there is. As a maths teacher, we have a few assessments, but nothing like the boundary they have. So I urge you to reject the amendment.
Thank you very much. So at the moment we're debating the amendments. Are there any further contributions for the amendment? Certainly. Choose a podium.
I'm Stuart Kamisha and I'm 58 according to this. I'm also a computing science teacher, and it's absolutely brilliant because last night I was at a meeting of the computing teachers in the Edinburgh area, and unanimously we are protesting about the amount of work that is required internal assessment wise. But Sarah, it says all levels, and I think that would be why I feel that we aren't homing in on the fact that it's the technologies faculty that is getting this extra burden, and it is an extra burden. The only other thing I have to say, to be totally frank to my colleagues in Edinburgh, is OK, we'll do it, but pay us for it and give us recognition for the fact that we're doing it.
Thank you very much. Are there any other contributions in relation to the amendment? Not in relation to the motion itself, but in relation to the amendment. OK. Keith, you want to speak about the amendment?
Could we just have a recap of how that first paragraph...
OK, just to reread. The proposed amendment would read, Internal assessment demanded by the SQA places onerous and unsustainable demands on teachers. So that is simply the first paragraph. The second paragraph remains unchanged.
So we would delete the rest of it after teachers?
So from varies, no. The second paragraph remains unchanged.
No, I mean delete the rest of the first paragraph, so you're just kind of rearranging.
As Sid suggested in his amendment, that you put a bracket before varies, open a bracket before varies and close a bracket after it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words would be cut. Okay, can we move to a vote on that amendment, to whether we wish to accept the amended motion? First of all, we're not voting on the motion itself at this stage. We're simply deciding whether to accept the amendment or not. So can I ask first of all for hands, those in favour of amending the motion? Those against? Any abstentions? Okay, I think that is defeated by a majority. The motion stands as printed. Keith, you came up to speak. Are you wanting to speak to the motion as it stands? And Ward as well, sorry.
Well, say as it stands, I was going to suggest a different amendment. Okay, so I'll try that and see how it goes. I would support the motion as it is. I've certainly spoken to colleagues within my own school and other schools within the authority, friends and colleagues who've had an absolutely horrendous time with marking, and the amendment I was going to suggest was right at the end, which we see demands from Scottish Government, local authorities, employers, boards of independent schools and SQA, an immediate and significant reduction in internal assessment and a review into verification. It seems to me that verification is largely where the problem has come from in recent times. Design and manufacturing, technical, etc., seem to, certainly from what I've heard, seem to be having a particularly bad time with things. I've certainly, spoken to a number of folks who it's almost, however they send things off, it's never right, and it comes back, and you have to. It's almost as if the verifier have an idea in their mind of how the thing should be, and if you've not got that exactly the way it should be, then the thing's a nightmare. In other subjects, I've spoken to colleagues really just in the last couple of weeks who've been in tears with what has come back from verifiers, flatly contradicting what they've been told before, and all sorts of other things. I think I got off lightly. We got verified, this was just for one outcome at National 5, a National 5 unit in fact, so it was hardly a huge amount, and they sent back 4 reasons why this wasn't, they weren't accepting this. All 4 of which were inaccurate, one of which was hilarious because it said that the assessment was for a different outcome, and you think, yeah, I can see why you think that, because the piece that I've sent in with this does have the title of a different subject, but that's your typo, not mine. Anyway, when that was sent back, we kind of deleted that and made 1 or 2 other well, the only other alterations were to go through and kind of underline with a felt tip pen some key words in case they'd missed them first time around. But the thing was a joke. And as I say, I certainly get the impression that verification is the problem and is leading to teachers across the board over-assessing to make absolutely sure that, that you've met these outcomes. And the thing just seems to be getting worse. So the suggestion was just to put and a review into verification at the end.
Okay, thank you for your contribution there, Keith. While I accept that you've got some good points there, I feel that to bring that in at this stage actually changes the sense of the motion and would actually require a different motion altogether. So I'm going to rule from the chair and I'm not going to accept that particular amendment. Ward, do you have a contribution to make to the substantive motion as it is printed without any amendment? We'll make this the final contribution before we move to the vote.
Thank you. See what Robinson sitting for ages at the front there. It's such a long ongoing motion. I feel that one of the things that a lot of people tend to forget about here about the impact of the Mount internal assessment seems to be that in attainment. And I think back quite a few years, about 35 years ago, probably just a few weeks ago from now, I sat a thing called an O grade. How many people remember that? Some people think they sat O levels, but they didn't. They sat O grades. And I seem to remember doing that when we come through the O grade system with no internal assessment. And everybody was finished courses months in advance, and you get loads of time to prepare for exams. You get loads of time to revise, you even sometimes get started higher courses way in advance. And that helped improve attainment at the next level as well. And then somebody came up with a great idea of fixing something that wasn't broken. Why is it they always do that? They always decide we're going, let's just fix it for change, let's just change it for change's sake, and they come up with standard grade and with these investigations and stuff. And then they decided to scrap them, and standard grades suddenly become much better without investigations and without internal assessment. But suddenly we've got all this internal assessment. One of the members in my school, who's the principal teacher of design technology, has been complaining to me for months. He's one of our members, and he's been complaining to me for months, saying about the amount of assessment. He called it death by assessment, and I think that's about right. I mean, I would probably go further, and let's not just reduce the amount of assessment, let's get rid of it altogether. But so for that reason, I would say please support the motion.
Okay, thank you very much, Ward. We're now going to move to the vote on the motion as it is printed in the agenda. Could I please have a show of hands for those supporting the motion? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Carried unanimously.